So welcome to another episode of the Milpa Show. It is Friday. You're with us here today. Thank you for viewing. And so I'm actually going to be introducing Ofonzo Staton. He's our Milpa Restoring Promise intern. And so we're going to start off with a check-in question. Zoe, what authors' books have you been reading lately that you recommend?
I read something from Black and Brown Solidarity. It's by John D. Marquez. Really interesting book, man. So I would recommend that book to Black and Brown people, Indigenous people, a good understanding on what the brother's saying. It's a good reading.
What is it about that book that drew you to it? Or did somebody recommend it?
Actually, I was just scrolling, and according to the work that I do, with MILPA and the Restoring Promise from Black and Brown people, being subjected to racial profiling and stuff of that nature. I just took a look at it, read it, and it was pretty good. Actually, it just come from me just scrolling through different books, different literatures and stuff of that nature. Caught my eye, so I just read it.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And that's super important to the work that we're doing, right? Because I think that ending mass incarceration and dismantling the school to prison pipeline and generally just building people power, that's something that not only Brown, Indigenous people, Latinos, Mexicanos go through. It's also important for Black folks and for everybody else, Asian folks, anybody of color. It's going to be really important.
Right.
So, is there anything that you've drawn from the book that you feel so far has caught your attention?
Oh, yeah. There's quite a few takeaways. I mean, one, that Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities, we fall victim, to racial profiling or injustice, than any other group in society. That is a major takeaway from the book. He talks about it in the book about Houston, Texas. I guess I don't know if that's where he's from. I can't remember. He focused on Houston, Texas. Like back in the day, it was named the Black Belt. And it was named the Black Belt because the African-American population was so great there. And then he goes on to state that over the last 30 years, the Latinos has become the largest minority group in the city. It just shows that we make up, African-Americans, I think we make up like 13.4% of the United States population, and the Latinos make up like 18.5%. So like together it's like 42% roughly, not even half the United States population. It just kind of caught my attention. We as Black, Brown, and Indigenous people should pull together more. The common cause, what we all go through or what we all face on a daily basis. That was my main takeaway from the book, how we should pull together, kind of more or less like unite. I mean, for the greater cause, for the greater good of the next 7 generations.
For sure. And the book is Black and Brown Solidarity. So go out and get that, look it up. So in your own words, Zoe, who are you and what was it like growing up in South Carolina? And you find yourself right now in Bennettsville, South Carolina.
Oh, man, me growing up in Bennettsville. Well, actually, I grew up with my mother. My name is Kathy. Her and my father married really early. Of course, it didn't work. Nevertheless, I still had a great childhood because I still had both of them in my life. When I was about maybe 6 or 7, my mother met this guy, which became my stepfather. He kind of raised me, become the man that I am today. He taught me what responsibility was, accountability. Just kind of raised me up, to understand what manhood was, what it is. I had a really, really good childhood. Got 2 sisters. We are all 5 years apart. It's 3 of us. And we raised here in the community that I stay in, that I reside now. I've been here my entire life. Bennettsville is really small. I didn't raise up in the city part. I was kind of like in the country, a country boy at heart. Out here in this country, not much to do. We have a big, big family. My grandmother had 14 kids. From the branch off of all of those kids, man, you got tons and tons of cousins. We had our own little thing out here in these sticks. We made good what we had. My childhood was good. And I attended schools here in Marlborough County up until 1995. Didn't get a chance to graduate. I became a quote-unquote statistic to the system. I was arrested in 1994 for a murder of someone I've never seen a day in my life. I was in turn released because someone confessed to the crime, but in turn locked back up again in 1995, where I did a stint in the county jail before being given a bond. I didn't have the opportunity to graduate with my class. That was really, really disappointing to me. You work hard throughout 12 years of school, and that's what you seek, to graduate. Walk with the people that you've been going to school with for so long. And I didn't have that opportunity. Like I tell my mother the other day, I was kidnapped. But I did get out of jail in 1996, about 9 months prior to going to trial. Like I say, my childhood was good, man. And I had no issues, whatsoever until I was 17 years old. That's when I became a statistic.
Is that something, I feel like you've brought that up, that you might want to pursue your GED, or maybe you might have already pursued it?
I did. While in prison, that was the very first thing that I did. I accomplished that feat, and got my GED while in there. They didn't have any, higher learning educational classes that would give you like a degree or anything like. But I did achieve some trades, welding, carpentry. I take those things and I apply it, make the best out of what I got. As a matter of fact, that's what I do now. I weld. I'm utilizing, the trades and the skills I got while incarcerated.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So moving into how you're writing a book, if you could tell us a little bit more about your book. I know you've had a chance to share a draft with me, but I'm sure there's been new additions since you shared it. So if you could tell us a little bit more about why is it important for you to write a book, to tell your story? I know you've shared before that you would want to share it with other young folks or just people in general that might have a similar situation as you.
The book situation, contemplated on it throughout the duration of my incarceration, but never really acted upon it. My mother used to always tell me, "Why don't you just write a book?" Just never attacked it. When I got out of prison, I met this guy, Matthew Davis, and I met him through Juan Gomez. I approached him, how you go about, starting a book. In turn, agreed to assist me. The book really doesn't have a title yet. It's still in the making. It really just highlights my life from, I guess, my childhood through incarceration to now. So it's like 3 levels. It will go pretty much in depth when I'm done with it to pretty much highlight the system. Young people of color, for the most part. It will highlight that, because, I was so young at the time when I was charged with this particular crime and not have the literacy to understand what the law meant. We're country people. We oftentimes believe that the system, it works. When you are illiterate to the law, the conditions in which, how they treat people of color, it just goes without saying, man, that, we just, I ain't gonna say we're ignorant or stupid or dumb. We just don't know because we're not faced with that daily. When you're slapped in the face with it, you really don't know which way to turn. The book pretty much, man, kind of sort of highlight stuff like that. Of course, the support system, that I had throughout the duration of it all. My mother, and she was there. My stepdad, before his passing, he was there. My girlfriend, my sisters, aunts, some cousins, it's just a support system that I had to allow me to make it. And of course, my spiritual background, I'm a firm believer in God. I give God the credit, first and foremost, sustaining me, giving me the strength daily, keep a sane mind, to always kind of remain positive in the midst of negativity. It just kind of highlight, man, again, that my stints in prison, even though I did, 23 years and 27 days, I can't give you the hours and the minutes. It was hard to be in prison for a crime that, I didn't do. I didn't really do hard time. I don't wanna come off as if it's okay to go to prison, because it's not. I hated it there, but I was favored there. And like I said, I just give credit to God, man, for keeping me and favoring me, through the process. But it didn't stop me every day from working harder, get back home. I told somebody once, if you love your life before you came to prison, you'll fight for your life. And that's what I did daily. My liberation didn't come the way that I thought it would. Of course, again, I was innocent. So I thought that the system would liberate me, the judicial system. But it was always no. I was told no many, many, many times. I didn't allow to stop me from scribing, from expecting. I use no as just the next opportunity, and then my opportunity, it arose February 19th of 2020 when I went up for the parole for the 3rd time. I wasn't gonna be told no. I was going to pick it up, and I made parole. The book, it goes back the beginning of Zoe to the middle of Zoe to now what Zoe is. Again, it's a work in progress. I'm looking forward and I'm anticipating the end of it so I can get it out, get people to reading it, and hopefully it can touch some people. As of right now, the book is being reviewed by, different agents, talk about publishing and stuff of that nature, so hopefully here in the near future, late summer, mid to late summer, y'all will get the book, man, and I can come back on here, kind of solicit a little bit and put it out there. Yeah, see what we can do. Y'all can support me a little bit.
Yeah, y'all people be on the lookout. If you're viewing this right now, be on the lookout for that book and just lay some prayers down for Zoe, because this process can be probably it's a lot, right? I don't think think it's probably tedious. It takes time, it takes patience, emotional to a certain extent, right? Because you're telling your story, you're reliving some parts of your life. And so I will ask you, is there any words that you would give your 17-year-old self?
Oh man, the words that I would give my 17-year-old self, man, be mindful of your surroundings, your contact, your associations. Many times my mother told me, and my stepfather, don't hang with this person or don't hang with that person. During those times, man, you just think, yo, man, they just trying to be hard on me. They don't know what they're talking about. Man, they just being mean. They don't want me to do nothing. But at the end of the day, their provisions and their care for you and their love for you, it means a lot. It goes a long way. And they can see what you can't see. Coaching a basketball team, I can see stuff from the sidelines that the players can't see while on the court. I can call this timeout and I can talk to the players and I can draw this play up and give them a better understanding on, make this pick. You do a backdoor cut and they can see it better coming from somebody from the outside, So that's why I kind of see it.
Cool.
And
You're Phil Jackson to the Chicago Bulls.
I know, right? We're gonna run that triangle. I wish though that I would have listened to my mother more, not try to grow up so fast, but just enjoy being a teenager and not try to rush into adulthood. That's what I would tell my 17-year-old self.
Thank you for sharing that. And I feel like even seeing my niece is like 10 years old and she's growing up so fast. She has access to the internet. And so there's so much that at 10 years old, she's so far advanced than I was when I was 10 years old. I think I was pretty like sheltered and childish, and she's like at a different level, right? And so I think if that's the case with my niece who's 10 years old, like I would imagine that a 17-year-old today is just in a space of there's so much pressure on like social media. And even if you don't have social media, there's at 17 years old, so much, your image is like the biggest thing. Like you have to look like fresh and clean and like have like the latest fashion. And there just seems to be a lot of pressure. So thank you for your words. And hopefully anybody listening, you can remember how you were when you were a teenager, or if you are a teenager, that you could kind of take on the lessons and teachings from folks in the community, right? And so Zoe, if you could tell us more about your experience as a Restoring Promise intern, what types of projects have you worked on? What types of conversations are you having with, I know Elias is your channel, shout out to Elias and the Restoring Promise team. They gave us a presentation on Wednesday about just like the work that's being done on Restoring Promise. So shout out to Brian and John and Christian and George. So if you could tell us a little bit more about your experience.
I would first like to give shots out to Juan Gomez and John Panetta for giving me this opportunity as an intern. I met those two brothers back in 2018 at Lee Correctional Institution. They came there to do a cleansing of this dorm that we're supposed to move the 18 to 25-year-olds Restoring Promise guys in. I was a mentor, and they came in to incorporate training, to us as mentors. So that's how I met John and Juan. Upon my release, I seen John about 2-3 weeks prior to me getting out. Of course, he gave me his contact information, told me to let him know when I touched down. He gave me this opportunity, man. So I'll be forever grateful, to him, and John just for trusting me and trusting in me, for giving me this opportunity. Further, the work that I was doing behind the wall, even though this is a little bit different because I was a mentor with the 18 to 25-year-olds. So we kind of launched the unit, doing Restoring Promise outside of prison. It's a little bit different. To be able to work with Vera, the MILPA staff, with the collaboration, we call it CRCT. That's what we do. Me, Brian, George, Lydia from Vera, Denia from Vera, and Valdez. It's like 6 of us, 6 or 7 of us. We get together, it used to be weekly, to discuss how we want to change living conditions in mass incarceration and for people in prison. And here in South Carolina, that's what we've been doing for a couple of months now. I was asked by, I want to say Denia Phoenix from Vera, joined their team. Of course, anytime that I can make a difference for the brothers and the sisters behind that wall, I'm all game. As I always say, I did so many years back there for me not to reach back and try to do what I can. It just wouldn't be right. So given this opportunity, to do that type of work, man, I'm grateful. I get a chance to Zoom with the brothers behind the wall. Same guys that I just left a year ago. I get to sit down in a circle, which is virtual, but to be able to share that space with them and for them to see me in this light, still doing the work that we oftentimes talked about. It's great, man. It's a great feeling. I like being on a high. I can remember one day, John, he texted me. I was at work now, looked at the text. And he was like, yo, Brother Zoe, we having a Zoom meeting with the mentors and the mentees at Lee at about 2:00. They requesting you. I'm like, well, dang, I'm at work, you know. He like, but if you can't do it, I understand, man. So I got with my supervisor. I told him, I said, yo, I got a call that I need to take. And he was like, well, just take your time, Zoe. Go ahead and do what you need to do. That was just awesome, man, because it gave me the opportunity, man. And that was my first Zooming with them. So to see them, brothers, and to let them see me, I'll oftentimes say I want to give hope. I've seen so many brothers behind the wall lose hope. I've seen so many brothers get out of prison and come back to prison saying that it's hard, you know, that they can't find a job. For those guys to see me in my work uniform at work on a Zoom call with them, still doing the work, giving them a sense of hope. Man, Brother Zoe is doing really good. You know, he's still doing the work, you know, so we can do it too. It's all about, man, giving hope to those brothers, man. You know, some have long sentences, some been there for a long time. Don't ever want them to lose focus. The fact that they can get out, you know, they can make it. You know, to be gone for so long and to come back and transition, you know, back in the way that I did, it has been truly a blessing. It wasn't hard. I haven't been overwhelmed. MILPA has allowed me a space to purge. When I do feel like I'm heavy, I have a space that I can go to. I listen to these guys. Somebody has to listen to me sometime as well. The MILPA staff, man, you know, has been truly great, offering me that shoulder to lean on when I need it. Restoring Promise, I'm looking forward to the next chapter of it, especially with opening up more Restoring Promise units across the country. It's very much needed. Numbers don't lie. But when you do surveys and you get big percentages amount the safety level, that's big in general. The residents saying that they feel safe in this environment, or the staff don't mind coming to work because they're not worrying about looking over their shoulder. It's big, man, to be able to incorporate, you know, Restoring Promise units across the country. It's huge. Again, I'm a part of it, you know. Kudos, man, to John and Juan, man, and Vera, you know, for giving me that chance.
You're a part of the ninjas. We were talking about how the Restoring Promise team, it's kind of like y'all are ninjas. You're behind the walls doing the work. And obviously it's different right now because it's virtual, it's via Zoom, but still you're having those tough conversations that a lot of times we don't see. They're important, right? With the staff, with the correctional staff in particular, the folks that work at the institutions, for them to understand a different perspective of humanity, right? And also what stands out is something that they shared as far as I think it was Brian was showing pictures of like Germany, like what it looks like in Germany, as far as like it's a room and it's like an actual room with plants and with a separate door for a bathroom, and how in Germany there's just a different idea when it comes to incarceration as opposed to like here in the US, where in the US it's so punitive and it's dehumanized that a lot of times it's like you're going contrary to what you say you're trying to instill in people as far as restoration or rehabilitation or what have you. So
Germany and Norway actually came to the prison once, you know, to give a layout on how their residents do the time and how, you know, versus how we do time here in the States. And man, it's like night and day. Restoring Promise, when you launch a unit under the Restoring Promise umbrella, it gives you the ability to have, you know, a room to yourself. We don't have to share a room with another person. They want you to put like dividers up to try to kind of give you another mentality that you're not in the room with the toilet or the sink. So, you know, you just kind of got like a divider up. It kind of divides that area away from the actual room. So they try to give you a chance to set your little room up like a little studio apartment. So my last year and a half, that's how I spent it. It does something for the psyche because when you stay in a little 10 by 12 or 8 by 12, you know, with another person, I don't think it's humane. Restoring Promise, it kind of gives you the option, man. It gives you that chance to the way that you think about, you know, prison and kind of get you to focusing on your life outside of prison. Yeah, but Norway and Germany, first of all, they treat the residents with human dignity. That is a major part of their constitution. Unlike here. In this state, man, if you incarcerated, you pretty much you're a slave. I mean, that's pretty much what the Constitution says. The 13th Amendment would tell you. Norway and Germany, totally different. But that's what we're trying to incorporate, you know, in prisons, you know, nationwide. Allows brothers and sisters, you know, to feel humane. Feel human.
Thank you for sharing that. And a lot of us have the privilege of not having to think about that. And unless we watch movies or shows like Locked Up, which may or may not show the full truth, we don't really have an idea of how folks are living when they are incarcerated, because a lot of times maybe we have an understanding of it, especially when I was younger and wasn't privy to movement work, or, just I didn't know. I thought that, well, yeah, people that commit crimes, they go to prison. But then you don't think about how, like, actually the system is built in such a way where it's Black, Indigenous, people of color that have most of the burden on them as far as going to prison, but also the fact that prisons are business as well. And so when there are bodies in the prison, that's what keeps that system going. So it's just really creepy to like learn about all that, in the sense of like, dang, so it's actually counterintuitive to what we're being told, as far as like it's for rehabilitation, right? It's more so it's like for money too. And so it's in people's best. There's people that actually make money off of like people that are incarcerated, right? And so like it's in their best interest that the laws remain the same and they continue moving forward. And like Airam says, the system isn't broken. It's actually working the way it's meant to work, and it's doing a really fine job of like making sure that people that are poor, that are Black, that are Indigenous, people of color, young people are the ones that end up getting caught up in the system. So I do appreciate you sharing. We've been having an ongoing conversation about how throughout history, there has been a lot of anti-Blackness, anti-Indigenous, and anti-Brown rhetoric. So can we get your thoughts on the importance of Black and Brown solidarity? And you probably already opened this with the book you're reading on Black and Brown solidarity.
I think it's imperative that Black, Brown, Indigenous people unite together. Like again, man, the percentages of the population, Latinos and African Americans in this country still doesn't suffice what the white race is. And sadly, that most times, they stick together, and they are the majority. Us being minority and people of color and faced with the same obstacles in life. I was reading something. We have a Jim Crow era, and Jim Crow, his laws against what Black folk, wasn't allowed to do. But I wasn't aware that they had something called the Juan Crow, which speaks in reference to the Mexicans, what they couldn't do. Like in southwestern states, across this country, they used to have signs up, no dogs, no Blacks, no Mexicans. I mean, that should speak volumes. They look at us as a people, but it should speak volumes about how we should see each other. Like I say, man, we are faced with the very same stuff. I think that it's coming around some, because, you see across the nation nowadays that minority residents, how they shine the spotlight on prominent issues, racial profiling and police brutalities and stuff of that nature, when they arise. We should take a valiant effort, always, pull together in unity, because again, we are the minority. There's power in numbers. So we come together, instead of being 18.5%, 13.4%, we become 41.9%. We're much stronger that way. That's how I feel, about Black and Brown solidarity.
I feel it. I grew up watching Walker Texas Ranger because my dad was super into it, and I was like super into it for a long time. But then come to find out that actually the Texas Rangers were created in Texas to round up Mexican folks. And it's like, what? Like, you get that understanding. You're like, wait a minute. So then yeah. On to the point that you're talking about, it's like law enforcement a lot of the time is this system that is actually hurting us more than helping us, right? It is, they do talk about like police protecting and serving, but a lot of time it's like, who are you protecting and serving if it's a lot of the time Black, Brown, Indigenous, people of color that you're hurting, especially young people, right? So I feel that. So I appreciate that. What can you tell us about your path towards healing? What are some steps that you have taken in order to heal, especially given that you spent 23 years behind the walls of, Lee Correctional Institution? I would imagine there's a lot of like unconditioning that needs to happen. But if you could tell us a little bit more just about your healing.
Oh man, we oftentimes when we feel okay, that we okay. I went a long time, just talking to my mom's close friends, even my girlfriend, my sisters, how I may feel about a certain issue. I always tried to remain strong, in the midst of it all. It wasn't really until I went through this class at Lee. It was called Men's Reentry, MRI. And the acronym MRI, it's like an X-ray. You have to look within yourself, what's holding you back from growing. And I went through this particular class. It was instructed by a guy named Mark Sellers. Awesome guy, man. He have this thing in the class called grief and loss chart that you have to do. On this chart, you start from the day that you was born, and you go down the line from every year that something may have transpired in your life. Anything that may have harmed you mentally, physically, loss of families, loved ones, lost your life and put to the system, so forth and so on. It wasn't until I did that chart when my healing began. I was able to let a lot go then, because again, I didn't think that I was bothered. I didn't think that I needed to be healed. Actually, at that particular time, before that class, healing wasn't on my radar, because I really didn't know anything about, the process of healing. I give great thanks, for that class, for allowing me the opportunity to get out, what was hindering me from growing. And then being in the Restoring Promise unit, I've had many, many losses during my incarceration. I've lost many, many loved ones. My stepdad, my grandmothers, my grandfather, aunts, uncles, cousins. And the very last one really, really, really tore me up, that I really, really needed some guidance, man. I really needed, somebody to lean on. I lost my son. To get a call, your son has been killed, your only child, in the midst of incarceration, man, that was hard. Restoring Promise offered a lot, when it came to, me getting through that particular process. Of course, I had my family. They wasn't really hands-on, to be there with me. Like, Zoe, it's all right, man. It's going to be all right. You can let it go. But those brothers and sisters, the staff, offered me a shoulder to lean on, man, just as if they was my family. That was a really, really good healing process, for me, going forward. But it's still hard today. Today, how I deal with it, of course, I still have family. MILPA has, we have a session like every other Friday called Hombre Noble. I share a space with about 5 or 6 other brothers, and we talk. We have some really, really deep discussions. They allow me to purge, man, because oftentimes the conversations get really deep. Those conversations kind of resort back, to those loss, your baggage, and it oftentimes get hard. So for them to, embrace me and to allow me to be vulnerable, to that particular situation, man, and not judge, it means a lot. So that lets me know that, the healing process is still an ongoing process. It will continue to be an ongoing process, because we have struggles, we have obstacles, trial and tribulation on a daily basis. We all, man, gonna need healing, in some form, and we gonna need somebody, to allow us that space. One other reason, why I'm so grateful, for John and Juan, man, because I have met some awesome guys and sisters, that gives me, man, a space where I can go to discuss anything with no judgment, man, no condemnation. It's awesome. Just about 2 weeks ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had one, man. It was really, really deep, man. Actually, we got one in a little bit. I'm really looking forward to attending it. At the moment, I don't have anything, But when I get there, I may need those brothers to lean on. Who knows, man? But that has been my process when it comes to healing in that order. It's been great. And again, it's still an ongoing process. I just thank everybody that allows me, the opportunity to vent, to rave, about whatever it is.
Thank you for sharing, and rest in power to your son and to your family members that have passed. Hopefully they're able to hear hear your words. We can lay down some prayers for them, and may they be well. And I'm going to ask this question before we get to the call to action, because it's just something that came on my mind. And I'm going to preface it with, I have a hard time crying because I feel like generally, like it seems that has been conditioned in a way where you can't cry, you can't show your feelings, you can't be weak, right? And that's something that messaging that I've gotten from family members or what have you, right? And to be a woman that has a hard time crying, I wonder what is your relationship to crying, especially as a Black man in America, that sometimes there's this pressure that, I don't know, you have to be strong or you have to hold everything in. So I want to ask of you, if you feel comfortable answering, what is your relationship to crying?
I don't really know what my relationship is to crying, but I don't mind crying, man. I think it allows me to purge, to release, whatever it is I'm holding at a particular time. I've oftentimes heard that, men don't cry. I'm here to tell you that that is a lie. We oftentimes hear that and we hold back so much that when it do come out, it can be violent. I don't think that that's good. That's why, as a mentor, I used to tell the little brothers, man, it's okay, man, to be vulnerable to certain stuff. Not saying that you have to be all soft or feminine. At the end of the day, we all have feelings and we all have emotions. It's okay to let go sometime, man. So you got to have a sense of what soft skills is. Like I say, man, I don't mind being vulnerable to an issue. If it's something I'm passionate about, something that I really, really care for, I don't mind. I'm by no means what they call soft. I'm a man. It's okay. I mean, that's how I relate crying. I relate to crying. It allows me to purge. But to tell you the truth, when I'm done, I feel better. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I feel better. Yeah, I feel better, So
Lighter.
and the next time that I have to cry, I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna cry.
Let it go.
I'm gonna
Let
let it
it
go.
go.
Yeah.
It's Friday, crying party. No, I feel it.
Right.
I feel it. That's important to let it go in the moment, because a lot of times I know what's happened to me is like, I'm wearing makeup, I can't, or I'm in public, I can't, or I'm around certain people and I can. And it's like, just let it go. It's important. So I definitely appreciate, and it sounds like you have a positive relationship to crying, right? A lot of people are like, I don't cry ever, right? Like I see my dad sometimes and he tears up, but it's like, I've never seen him cry. And I think it's all the conditioning of like, you have to be a man, you have to be macho, you have to hold in all your feelings, you can't let it go, you can't be vulnerable. And that's also really painful, because it's like, we're human beings, like we have feelings, like you said, and we have to let it go. And we have to be able to express ourselves in that way. And it's cleansing. Like my mother says, it's
Absolutely.
cleansing to, after you cry, you feel lighter, you've let it out, and you're able to focus on the next thing. So I do appreciate
Yes.
that. Yeah. So moving on to our call to action. So February was Black History Month, but in actuality, a month, in my opinion, is too little time to be able to fit the history of Black folks' contributions and Black folks in general, all the stories, all the strength. So as we continue to honor and reflect on the valuable teachings of Black history, what's your call to action for the youth of your community, specifically maybe Bennettsville, South Carolina?
Yeah, I do agree that 1 month is way too little, to fit Black history, our people, not just our people, Black, brown, indigenous. Every day is Black history. Every day I live, somebody of the Black African descent, make history daily. It may not be publicized. Somebody do it daily. I honored my mother doing Black History Month, even though this is Women's Month, but I honored my mother doing Black History Month. We all oftentimes honor, the people that discovered something, somebody that was out in the forefront, that was out there, that was well known. I honor Kathy Staton. That's my mother. That's my anchor. That's my backbone. So I honor her doing Black history. My call is, to the youth and my community is to really, man, just show by example the experiences in which I've had to try to teach them better, not to become a statistic. You already won. You have one strike against you already. You're a person of color. And most times than not, you have two strikes because you're illiterate to the law. Just trying to educate the brothers and the sisters that surround me. Just about 3 weeks ago, a couple of the brothers, they came up under me. They went off to college, man, got degrees, and one came back, opened up his own little business. They launched a March on Main. That was the name of it. And we walked from City Hall. We marched from City Hall to the courthouse. The objective of it is to bring a male with you, a young male. Our little basketball team just won the state title. They was at the front of the march, because they really initiated, they inspired it, because when they made their little championship run, the whole community got behind it. Our thing is, if you all would get behind this basketball team because they're winning, let's get behind these young brothers and sisters in our neighborhood and allow them to win. So we marched from City Hall, to the courthouse. Just about everyone bought a little mail. Give them that particular experience that particular day, what they heard, what they seen, what they need to apply to their lives to go forward. It's just about coming out, trying to make a difference, not to allow the young, in your community, in your society, to fall victim to that system. I was a young adult going in, so I can relate. Coming out, having the knowledge, the wisdom, and that experience, what that system is, I can give it to those young brothers, on what not to do. I can tell them what I would have told my 17-year-old self. Yeah, mom and daddy ain't that old, that they don't know what they're talking about. They was 17 too. That's the call, man. Being a hope dealer, trying to make a difference, change maker, trying to curb that pipeline. You got to make a difference.
Hope dealer. I love that. So you heard it here, Ofonzo Staton. If you need to get in touch with him, please go on our social media, go on our milpacollective.org website, and we could always connect you with Zoe. Thank you, Zoe, for the work that you're doing in your community, as far as just continuing to inspire the young people and, writing the book that you're writing and just being involved with MILPA and doing that. So thank you to everyone for watching. Make sure to stay tuned for new episodes of the MILPA Show on YouTube. And thank you, Zoe. May you have a beautiful day and peace out.